You like a really thin knife? Because if you do, this might be a knife you want to add to your kit. This is the 165mm Bunka by Kyohei Shindo. If you haven't already, please consider supporting the channel by hitting that like and subscribe button. We also have an IG knife shop and a merch store if you want to further support this madness. Now, quick disclaimer, Tokushu Knives did send over this knife completely free of charge. However, they're not paying me for this video, and they understand that my review and feedback are 100% honest and of my own. So thank you, Tony, for sending this knife over for a review. And for those of you guys who are interested in picking one of these up, please visit www.tokushuknife.com. And as always, this is a first impression video. We'll come back here in 6 months to see how this baby holds up. Now, as stated before, this knife is made by Kyohei Shindo. Now, Shindo-san is a Tosa-based blacksmith. And according to Tokushu's website, Shindo-san is someone that you'll want to keep your eye on in the next few years. And we're going to go through why you should keep an eye on him. First, let's take a look at the specs of this knife. This knife is 165mm long, and it is 45.5mm tall right here at the heel. And the spine thickness right here at the heel is 4.6mm, which seems crazy thick, but hold on. It tapers down all the way to the tip to 2.2mm at the spine, and starting at the shinogi line, the grind is 1.65mm, and it tapers down to behind the edge to an impressive 0.08mm. 0.08mm. That is crazy thin. The blade material itself is hand forged out of Aogami No. 2 or blue No. 2 steel, heat treated to a 61 to 63 Rockwell hardness, and it leads down to this Y handle made out of keyaki wood and a plastic ferrule. Personally, I prefer a 180mm Bunka, but I think this 165mm range will be a great knife as a oversized petty knife, because usually petties are like what, 135 to 150, so this is 165, which is just a little bit longer, and I think this will serve really well for those of you guys who will want a larger petty size knife. Next, let's move on to the fit and finish. Now, please do keep in mind that these knives are made with affordability in mind before we get into the fit and finish. Let's check for straightness. Knife is nice and straight. The finish is very nice on here. I'm actually really digging this 𝐒𝐿 finish. And what's really cool about this 𝐒𝐿 finish, when you get closer towards the handle area where it's a little bit thicker right here, you can still see some of the hammer marks. Now, they're not like deep tsushime hammer marks, but you can see some of it hidden inside this 𝐒𝐿 all the way through. And it's very rustic, and I'm digging this a lot. Like, it looks really cool. Yeah, it looks really nice. The finish is very nice and even. Now, speaking of finish, this knife actually includes the Tokushu sharpening service. So whenever you guys are on the website to try to pick one of these up, they have an optional sharpening service. And Tony actually finished this one with a JNAT stone for me. For those of you guys who are new here or new to knives, JNAT stands for Japanese Natural Stones. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at this Y handle. Now, this Y handle is fitted on nice and straight. It's nice and tight, but there are a few things I do want to point out. Just like at this very bottom part, it's not finished all the way through. It's smooth, but it's not lacquered or has some kind of finish on it at the very bottom piece, like at the butt of the knife. It's not finished like the rest of the knife. And also, the fitment of this plastic ferrule is nice, but you can definitely feel a little bit of a ridge all around it, and also right here on the very top. And if you actually look at the tang hole right here from the top, I'll get a different angle so that way you guys can see that the tang hole is not filled all the way in with epoxy or beeswax. So whenever you guys do clean up this knife, there's a chance of water getting trapped in there, so you want to just take a little bit of extra precaution while cleaning up this knife. Okay, so really quickly, if you guys hear like some knocking noise, it's because my neighbor next to me is actually prepping. Our kitchens are back to back to one another, so it sounds like they're chopping on the other side and prepping food. So if you hear, you guys hear that? Yeah, sounds like they're chopping some stuff up. I wonder what they're cooking. But anyway, uh, back to the fit and finish. Now, for those of you guys who are wanting to pick one of these up, these knives actually I feel like deliver a lot of bang for the buck, especially if you like a knife with this particular grind and this particular finish. And at this price point, you can really honestly put on a new handle or a custom handle on this knife and still get a lot of value out of this knife. So that's an option for you. Or else you can just easily melt a little bit of beeswax and just fill the hole in, which is a very easy process. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the grind and the profile of this knife. Now, the grind and profile of this knife is why Tony said that Shindo-san is a blacksmith you should keep an eye on for the next few years, because these grinds are amazingly thin. I mean, it is so crazy thin. I'm going to get a different angle so you can see how thin this is. And as I said before, this tapers down to an impressive 0.08 millimeters right behind the edge. I mean, that is unheard of on pretty much all of the knives that I've reviewed so far up on this channel. And I'm really, really excited to try this out. But a word of precaution before you pick up one of these knives is that with all thin knives or laserish knives, they are a little bit more on the delicate side, meaning they're more prone to chipping and damages. So whenever you do cut with them, you do want to take a little bit extra precaution. Don't cut super hard foods, and your cutting technique needs to be on point. So just be a little bit extra cautious with it. I'm not saying that they're not great knives, but just in comparison to some of your Western grinds and things like that, that you just have to take a little bit more precaution when using it. But anyway, let's go ahead and get some stuff to cut and test this baby out. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and start the cut test with the standing paper test. As you guys see, nothing holding the paper up. What do you guys think of this new cutting board? I just picked up this new Tenryu high contrast board. Trying to test it out to see, kind of review it a little bit before I give you guys an opinion. But let's see. Oh man. That is nuts. Like, that cuts so well. Like, this is with the sharpening surface. So yeah, this might not be the factory edge, but you know, most Japanese knives actually expect, like, especially higher end Japanese knives, they actually expect the end user to sharpen their knives themselves. I think it's called I don't remember the name, but it's like opening the edge. That's kind of like what it means, or the finishing of the edge. That is really impressive. Really, really awesome job, Tony. Like, this is fabulous. Whew. I mean, look at that. Oh, that is really, really nice. Next, now, care test. I'm just taking some precaution. It's not that it's wedging or anything. I'm just a little cautious when cutting with an edge this thin. No wedging whatsoever. Cuts clean through. That is really, really nice. And I'm really digging this black cutting board because it makes the food just pop out. I see why they're just like, this is the high contrast board, because yeah, no, the food looks awesome on here. Next, we're gonna try out this potato. I almost called it a tomato, but we're gonna try out this potato. Now, one of the reasons I like using a potato is because, kind of like the carrot test, a little bit more forgiving, but it also, if your knife is a little bit too much on the thicker side, or if the geometry is just not correct, that it tends to split the potato open, just like in one of the previous knives that I've tried out. When the geometry of the blade is just not correct, it would just even split something as simple as a potato right in half and crack it open. Instead, it would just wedge right through. Trying to see if I can get, no, it doesn't, but nice try. So far, no problem. Gliding right through. Next, a red onion. Horizontal cuts. Going right through, no issue whatsoever. Very nice. Oh yeah. I mean, it is blowing right through this onion. No resistance whatsoever, especially towards the tip where the taper is a lot thinner. I mean, man, this is very, very nicely done. Alright, as you guys can see, the knife performed really well in the cut test, and I'm really excited to see where this knife stands here in about 6 months. And in the meantime, for those of you guys who are interested in getting one of these knives, definitely go check out the tokushooknife.com. They have a ton of stuff on their website, many of it very affordable and very competitive in pricing in comparison to some of your bigger knife shops. And Tony is also a great guy. He's very knowledgeable, so you guys can also hit him up, and he is more than happy to talk you through on one of the purchases. And I almost forgot, if you guys want to use RAF10 as a promo code on their website, you get 10% off of your entire purchase. So that's just something that Tony did for you guys. I don't get any kind of kickback from it, so just so you guys know. Anyhow, this wraps up our first impression video of the Kyohei Shindo 165mm Bunka, and I hope you guys do like it. If you guys do like it, please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world to me. It helped me support all of this madness, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.